everyone. Nice to meet you on tag 9, and we're gonna finish quickly, inshallah. We're going to be over in few sessions, so we'll start with a video about pronunciation as usual. I hope you will enjoy it. Do you remember what was the last letter we stopped at last time? Do you remember? We stopped at
F
letter.
letter.
Yeah, great. Yes, letter F. Today, inshallah, we're
We're
to have
going to
together
learn all about the
letter
letter
G.
G. Okay, the letter G is the seventh letter in the English alphabet. It's the fifth consonant letter. And if you want to know how many ways there are to pronounce this letter in English, stick with me. Let's have a look. Okay, let's begin. The letter G is part of my alphabet series, A to Z, where I teach you how many different ways there are to pronounce every letter in English. If you want to see more of these lessons, check out the description below where you'll find all of the letters that come before G. Okay, so let's start with the letter G. In the alphabet, it's pronounced G, G, G. Okay, it looks like this, and it's pronounced here with a J, J, J sound. Okay, practice with me.
J,
J,
J.
J. How do we make this sound, I wonder? Okay, take your tongue, your tip of your tongue, and you put it on your alveolar ridge, and then you use your vocal cords and build pressure and push your tongue down. Watch closely. J.
J,
So your tongue starts up here,
J,
J, and it finishes down here.
J.
J, J, J. Okay, it's a very similar position to the CH, ch, ch. The only difference here is that your vocal cords are vibrating. It's a voiced sound. J, J, J. Okay, practice with me again. J, J, J. So when we're pronouncing G, we're saying J and E. G, G, G. But you might know that outside of the alphabet, the letter G doesn't always sound like G. Okay, you probably know that it also sounds like G, G, and sometimes J, J. Okay, so let's learn about all the ways that we can pronounce this letter in English. So, number one, we already heard. Number one is the J, J sound, where your tongue starts on your alveolar ridge, your vocal cords vibrate, and you push your tongue down. J, J. But what is the rule for this? What is the rule for when we pronounce the letter G like J? What are the rules for this? Okay, now the letter G in English is a bit of a crazy letter because there are some rules, but sadly there are many exceptions to the rules. There are many breakers of those rules. Okay, so my advice is to watch this lesson and learn the rules, but if you're learning a new word that begins or contains the letter G, make sure you double check the pronunciation because this letter can be a little bit tricky. There are some general rules, but there are lots and lots of exceptions. So for example, take the J sound, okay? Normally, the letter G is pronounced with a J when it comes together with E, I, or Y. So that means when you see the letter G and the next letter is an E or an I or a Y, normally that means we pronounce that letter G with a J, J, J sound. Okay, one important thing to remember is that this J sound is sometimes called the soft G, the soft G, okay? The hard G is the G, which we're going to learn later, but the J is sometimes called the soft G, okay? Okay, let's start by having a look at G and E, G and I, and G and Y. So, G and E together. Can you think of any words with G and E? Words like general. If we're talking about G and E at the beginning of a word, general, general. Or gene, gene, as in it's in your genes. Okay, someone who's really, really clever is a genius. A genius. You could say Einstein was a genius. Listen carefully. G, genius. You've got that J, E, nius. Genius. He's a genius. Okay? Genius and general and gene. Also, gentleman. Gentleman and gentle. Okay? He's a gentleman. He is a real gentleman. Okay? Okay, what about when GE comes at the end of a word, like in age, or rage, or fudge, or nudge, okay? Words that end in DGE, or just GE, nearly always have this J, J sound, okay? Look at things like ridge, or hedge, or age, rage, stage, okay? All of them finish in that J sound, okay? The E on the end is actually silent. So we have that J as the final sound. Let's practice. Age, age, rage, rage, stage, stage, and nudge, nudge. Nudge means to bump someone out the way. If you're walking in the street and you nudge someone, you push them out the way gently. You might nudge someone at work if you want to talk to them. You just give them a nudge, and say, hey, what's up? A nudge, okay? Nudge. Okay, practice those words again until you've really got that J, J sound. And remember, at the beginning, it sounds like this. General,
General,
gentleman, okay, and
Genius.
genius. Let's try a practice sentence with this one. The general told the gentleman about the gems. The general told the gentleman about the gems. You can hear that J, J, J. General, gentleman, gems. The general told the gentleman about the gems. Say that as fast as you can and you'll really get a really good idea and a good way to practice them. General, gentleman, gems. The general told the gentleman about the gems. Okay? Next one is the sage and the mage wrote my age on the page. The sage and the mage, both of them magical things, the sage and the mage wrote my age on the page.
Who can practice this sentence? I want one of you to practice it.
Yes.
Yes, Tahar?
The sage and the mage wrote my age on the page.
Wonderful. Another one?
Yes, the sage and
Yes,
the
Rehan?
mage wrote my age on the page.
That's a great, thank you.
Okay, this should make sure that you remember that GE at the end of words is nearly always
Yeah.
pronounced J. Okay, the sage and the mage wrote my age on the page. Your turn.
The sage and the mage wrote my age on the page.
Okay, practice that again and again and again. Okay, and the last one is the large 3D bridge was generated by a genius. The large 3D bridge was generated by a genius. Now, don't worry, I know some of the vocabulary here is difficult, but it will really help you with your pronunciation. Try again. The large, big 3D bridge was generated, that means made on a computer normally, by a really clever person, by a genius. The large 3D bridge was generated by a genius. Have a go, your turn. Okay, well done. Let's move on to the next bit. Okay, as I said to you, remember that the rule here is that G and E together normally means the G sounds like J. But English is a little bit crazy, and the rule for this has a lot of exceptions. So probably you were thinking, wait a minute, G plus E in the word together, that's not a J, that's a G. Together. Also in tiger, the animal, tiger. Okay, and even in small words like get, I get something from my friends. Okay, do you get this? Get. So there are a lot of exceptions. Okay, get and together and tiger are examples of times when the G and E don't make that J sound. So be careful and make sure that you do like I said, which is always double check the word that you're learning first. Okay, let's have a look at the next rule. Okay, so G plus E, the G is normally J. What about G plus I? G and I together also means that the G is usually J. Think about words like gin or giraffe or giant. Gin, giraffe and giant, okay? G and I at the beginning of a word. Gin, giraffe and giant. Some examples of G and I in the middle or at the end of words are things like engine, like a car engine or a motorbike engine. Gin. Can you hear that J again? Engine. Not engin or engine, but engine. J. Engine. Region. Region is the place where you live. I live in this region. He lives in that region. Okay? And also words like magic. Magic. Okay? Often where you see that G, I, and C come together in words like magic or strategic. Okay? Strategy and strategic. Strategic and magic both end in G-I-C. And nearly always in English that means that G is pronounced J. Another example here is logic. Logic. Okay? Logic. Logic. Okay? A really good word to practice both G and E and G and I is the word ginger. Now, I like ginger. I like to put ginger in a lot of foods that I eat. I think it tastes really nice. I also like to drink ginger tea. Okay, I love ginger tea. So, you might notice that in the word ginger, you have G and I and G and E. And the pronunciations follow the rules in this lesson. G and I, gin, and then G-E-R, ginger, ginger. Okay, in my British pronunciation, we pronounce this ginger, ginger. Okay, do you like ginger tea? What's your favourite drink to drink that's hot? Coffee, tea? I like ginger. Love ginger tea. Okay, practice with me. Ginger. Okay, well done. Try this practice sentence. The gigantic aging giant had magic gingerbread. The gigantic means really big. The gigantic aging giant had magic gingerbread. Okay, one more
Who can
time.
practice this sentence? I want one of you to practice this sentence, please. Who's ready? One of you, please.
Can see it.
Yes. Hmm. Yes, of course. Go ahead. Who's ready? Who's ready to practice this sentence?
Yes.
Yes, Zahar?
Gigantic
Yeah. The gigantic aging. Yes. Go ahead.
قولي له ارفعوا مامته.
Yes, go ahead.
gingerbread.
Okay. The gigantic aging giant had magic gingerbread. Okay, let's go ahead and complete the video.
You try. The gigantic aging giant had magic gingerbread. Your turn.
Ginger.
Okay. Or number 2, try this. The religion's origin is in this region. This is a more difficult sentence.
Religion's
The religion's origin is in this region. That means the religion came from this part of the world, okay? The religion's origin is from this region. Okay?
May, can you try it? Can you try it, May?
The religion's origin is in this region.
Excellent. Okay.
The religion's origin is from this region. It's quite difficult to say this very fast. The religion's origin is from this region. Okay? You give it a go. The religion's origin is from this region. Okay? Okay, so 2 really common exceptions to this are words like girl and give. You'll notice again that G and I here do not have the J. Okay, they are exceptions. GI here in girl and GI in give have that G pronunciation, which we will learn in a minute. But they are exceptions. The normal and usual rule is that when you see G and I together, especially in longer words, it will often be pronounced that J, J, okay? Strategic, logic, okay? Or gin, okay? So make sure that you practice the J sound, but also remember that some words, especially words like girl and give, which are very common, are exceptions to this rule. Okay, what about G and Y? The rule was G plus E, G plus I, and G plus Y. G plus Y follows the same rule, which means normally it's pronounced J. Often J, okay, like in gyro, 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 okay? Or you might go to do some exercise in a gym, gym, okay? The pronunciation of the Y changes to I there, gym, gym. But the G, as you can hear, is a J, gym, 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 and gyro. You'll see this at the end of words like energy, energy, and apology, apology, okay? Also words with DGY at the end, like edgy or dodgy, okay? Dodgy is something that's not normal, not right. That looks very strange. It's dodgy, okay? It's a bit dodgy. If I say to you, I have an iPhone, and I will sell you this iPhone for just $1, that's dodgy, okay? Very, very British English, but that's dodgy. Something is not right about that price. It's dodgy, okay? Ends in DGY, G, okay? Dodgy, edgy, but also, as we said, energy and apology. When you give someone an apology, you say sorry to them. Apology, okay? The big exception to this rule is when you see GGY, okay? So when you see GY, like energy, it's normally J. But when you see GGY, then we change the pronunciation. Usually, this time, it's that G sound again, like in eggy, or doggy, or soggy, okay? Soggy is wet on the ground. The ground is soggy, okay? Soggy, doggy, and eggy, like an eggy smell in here, okay? Eggy. So when you see g, g, or gg, normally it's pronounced with that hard g sound, not the softer j, okay? Eggy, doggy, and soggy, okay? Try this crazy sentence if you want to practice that GY sound. The prodigy studied biology, ecology, and geology. Lots of j in there. Try again. The prodigy studied biology, ecology, and geology. The prodigy studied biology, ecology, and geology. Lots, okay? Have a go. The prodigy studied biology, ecology, and geology.
Yes, your turn. Who can practice it?
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, Sahar, go ahead.
The prodigy studied biology, ecology, and geology.
Very good. So, how many or what are the cases when we pronounce letter G as ja or we call it soft G? In which cases? If you
When
do-
G is followed by I, E, or Y,
Ja.
it's hard.
Yeah, it's ja. Okay,
It's hard.
it's
Yeah.
hard ja. Okay. No, soft. By the way, soft ja. Okay, because hard is g. Okay, but each rule
Yes,
has
sorry, yes.
yes, no problem at all. Each rule has an exception. For example, sometimes GE is pronounced as ga. Do you remember the words?
Like
remember-
girl,
GE,
like girl.
like together, like get. Okay. What about with GI? GI is always or is pronounced as ja, but in some cases or in some exceptions, it is pronounced as ga sound. Can you give examples?
Iggy,
Girl, girl.
Girl and give. That's right. What about GY? GY is also pronounced as ja sound, but in some cases it is pronounced as g. If it is, in which case?
I
If
think
we
Iggy.
have, yeah, if we have double G, Y, not one G, like Iggy, Huggy, Smoggy, and so on. So this is the first case for pronouncing letter G as a J sound, or we call it soft G, okay? So we'll stop here because to not to be late, okay? And we'll share our presentation for today. Do you know what our topic for today is? Do you have any idea about it? It's about classroom observation. No problem at all, Miss Tamia. You are welcome to the session, my dear friends. No problem at all. So let's see together.
Sorry, Miss Firdaus, sorry.
No problem at all. Don't worry, my dear friends. It's okay to come anytime. Don't feel.
Honestly, Miss Firdaus, I have an exam. I have a test, computer test. So I'm sorry for I'm being late.
No problem at all. I hope you best of luck, inshallah. No problem at all, my dear friend. Okay. So our tag for today is about classroom observation. So let's see together what are we going to talk about or know about. Okay. So welcome to tag 9. Our learning outcomes for today. By the end of this module, you will be able to consider the purpose of peer observation. And what do we mean by peer observation? What do we mean by the word peer? What do we mean by the word peer observation? Do we observe ourselves inside our classes, or we are observed by other friends, colleagues, or supervisors? What do we call or what do we mean by peer observation? Do you know?
Yes, other friend can make observation for me or classmate.
Yes. So by peer observation, we mean to be either to observe other teachers, to observe your friends or colleagues, or to be observed by other colleagues at school, or by the supervisors, or sometimes by your students inside the classroom, or the students themselves are observing each other. Okay, so this is the first game. Okay. The second objective is understand the skills involved in peer observation. So to be able to observe others, should we have some skills? Should we have some skills for observation? Of course, yes, we should have some skills. And this is what we are going to do together. And use effective feedback method. Is it effective to be observed by other friends or by supervisors without getting feedback? Is it effective to be observed
No,
without
no.
or without getting any feedback? Of course not. We want to be able to evaluate or assess our work if we are going right or wrong, unless we get the feedback, of course, the constructive or the effective feedback from others to be on the right track. And after that, consider what to focus on in observing. Of course, when we talk about observing, we have to talk about some criterion to be well or effective when we observe others or when we are observed. Also begin to plan a peer observation. So should we plan for a peer observation or enter classes haphazardly or randomly? What should we do to have a constructive or an important well-planned plan, or just to enter and just observe by luck or by accident? What's better?
To have
To
a
go
plan.
haphazard? Yes, of course, to have a plan. And even in everything in our life, we should have a plan for it. Okay. And at the end, we have to recognize the importance and value of peer observation in your own professional development. So, do you consider peer observation important or not? Do you consider it important or not to be observed or observe others? Is it valuable to have some peer observation? Is it valuable for you?
Yes,
Is
I
it
think it's
valuable?
very helpful, especially some pupils can accept the feedback from their classmates, not from the teacher.
Okay. Yeah, so let's together check all our answers or responses, and of course you are all right. No one is wrong, but we are all right, and we totally agree on all these points together. Okay, so what's peer observation from your point of view? What's peer observation? Just to define it in one sentence, what's peer observation? What's peer observation? Take half a minute to think about it. What do you mean by peer observation? And we have just mentioned previously. Are you sleepy?
I think peer observation is the observation that that is done by friends, between friends, or between classmates or colleagues.
Yeah, exactly. So by peer observation, we mean any kind of observation, either teacher-teacher observation, teacher-supervisor observation, supervisor-supervisor observation, or even the peer observation among the learners themselves when they observe each others and give feedback to each others. Okay. And what is the purpose of peer observation? What is the purpose? Why do we observe others? Or we ask others to come into our classes to observe us? What is the reason or what is the purpose of observation?
Maybe it's kind of assessment or evaluation or correction or
Yeah,
feedback.
right. Yeah, yes. And the last word is the most important one. Of course, the purpose of peer observation is getting feedback. But should it be a negative or a constructive and active feedback? What kind of feedback? And of course, especially we all suffer from those supervisors who sometimes frustrate and upset us. What kind of feedback? Okay. Do you want, if you are observed by a supervisor or from one of your colleagues, what kind of feedback? Passive or negative feedback, or on the other side, constructive and active, and of course, feedback. Which kind of feedback should we take or should we get when we are observing or are observed by others? Which kind of feedback?
Positive, Miss Firdaus,
Sure.
positive.
Yeah, sure. It should be a positive feedback first to know the points of strength and how to to add to these points of strength, and of course to tell the others about some points of weaknesses in a gentle and a positive way to avoid in the future. And is the purpose to judge others or to observe some points in the lesson or the classroom? What is the purpose? Is it to observe the teacher, his looking appearance and how the teacher behaves, or to observe the steps of how the teacher manage his lesson and manage his classroom? Is it judgmental?
No, Miss Firdaus, no.
Yeah,
If
of course, no.
if it's judgmental, يبقى كده it will be a passive.
Yeah, sure. So let's just check together. So by peer observation, of course, peer observation is an important tool in your professional development. We will not grow or develop ourselves if we are not observed by others, if we don't know how to deal in different situations and how to act in different situations. I'm working on the right track or not? So it's a very important tool in our professional development. Also, observing lessons of others can help you to know the things you may not be aware of in your own classroom. Sometimes we are teaching grammar, for example, in a specific way or in a traditional random way. But when we observe others, we take or notice something different. So we try to apply it in our classes. So it's very important. Also, if you are observed, it can provide a kind of mirroring, okay, to help you see your lesson more clearly, to confront any hidden assumptions. Sometimes we are working, but we don't know if you are right or wrong, if we want to add something or to avoid something. Also, peer observation is a voluntary activity. Of course, it's not a must to do it. You are not obliged to go and observe others, but it's a voluntary activity. You can't force someone to do it, just as you can force someone to develop you or to develop others. Also, peer observation can support development by providing a non-threatening environment. And here, put hundreds and thousands of lines under this phrase, by providing a non-threatening environment in which teachers are willing to look thoughtfully at their own classroom teaching. So when we are observing others, we don't mean at all to observe the teacher, how does he look or how does he speak, but we mean to observe the teaching or the classroom teaching, how the teacher introduces the lesson, for example, how does he start the lesson, how does he finish the lesson, how does he use the lead in, and so on. So what's peer observation? We have talked about it. Okay, can we force someone to do peer observation? Can I force you, Ms. Tami, for example, to go observe others? Is it a must or an obligation to force you to go observe others?
No, Ms. Firdaus.
Yeah, of course not. It's not we cannot force someone to do peer observation, of course. And even if we want to observe an excellent teacher or a colleague and he didn't want to, we have to respect his need and not to attend and observe him. Okay, how can peer observation support teacher development? Does it support the teacher development? Peer observation?
Sure.
Okay, how does it help teachers develop and develop themselves and grow and progress and make progress? How does it help teachers to support or to improve themselves?
As for myself, like in computer courses, to be aware of technical issues, or maybe use online computer lessons. ده يعني المفروض ان هيبقى فيه support for me. Also, if you مثلا some teachers have to develop some strategies for difficult lessons. I think the
Okay.
supervisor will help
Yeah.
or will support him.
Yes. Okay. So simply speaking, we can say that we can support observation supports teacher development because teachers learn from each others. Simply speaking, to learn from each other and exchange experience and information, of course. Okay. But before we go to the next slide, are there steps or stages for peer observation? Are there stages?